Thanks for joining today's session for Moving at Cloud Speed in Productivity Software, where we're going to be talking about the benefits of managing updates and the benefits of just staying current across all of your applications that are going to be really critical in your business. So my name is Amesh Matsukani. I am a program manager within the Office Engineering team, really focused on helping IT organizations become a lot more efficient. But today, I want to hand it over to our guest speaker, JP, who's going to from Forrester, who's really going to be talking about why do we need benefits around staying up to date. So I'm just going to hand it off to JP so he can start informing you about all the great aspects of it. So JP, welcome, and the floor is all yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today, Amish. JP Gownder, Vice President and Principal Analyst here with Forrester on our Future of Work team. And, this is a very interesting question, right? So Amish and I had some dialogue about what is the real case that we need to make as technology leaders, as even business leaders of organizations, when we are thinking about up-to-date technology. And it turns out there is a very important case to be made, but I don't know that it's always spelled out that easily. So one of my goals here in this presentation is to lay out some of the concepts and some of the logic about why up-to-date technology can improve employee experiences, drive organizational success in the world that we are living in now. So I'd like to start out by talking about some of the tectonic shifts that are happening that impact all of us. At Forrester, we call these four shocks. These four shocks are reshaping both work and business over the next decade. And you could think of this as sort of symptoms and drivers, both, of a world of continuous change. There's a continuous set of challenges that are coming in and that will continue to come in that necessitate a certain kind of technology, infrastructure, and architecture for things like productivity applications. So let me get into this and you'll see what I mean. Now, we're all familiar with the first shock here, and that is systemic risk events. These are those, existential sometimes threats that happen that come from outside, exogenous shocks. The pandemic being a very, very strong example of this. But there are many other systemic risk events that are happening, whether that is a giant fire in California or in Australia, climate change, political risks, trade wars. All of those are examples of systemic risks. These are events that challenge the way we get business done. It challenges our supply chain. It challenges our channel. It challenges our employees in many cases. And we think that there will continue to be systemic risk events that emerge over the next decade. Second up is robotics and automation. Now, the expectation here is that these technologies will continue not just to take away, let's say, jobs, but to take away tasks. In other words, they're going to be able to take away some of those tasks that we find rote, repetitive, challenging for us to do. And so we want to have an architecture that allows us to take advantage of those technologies as they emerge. The third is employee or workforce data. We are creating a lot of it. We're not always using a lot of it, but we're going to need to master that realm in order to manage our employees and drive their productivity. And the last one is employee power. This is an important one because it says employees have more venues for expressing their pleasure or displeasure with the technologies they use and indeed with their employers. So these shocks come in and they change who is doing the work, what is being done, and as we all know, where we are getting work done. So we've seen some of this. Here are some quick examples. We know that COVID-19 created a major revenue shock and also displaced all of our workers. We know, or we believe at Forrester, that robotics and automation will not only sort of take away a few jobs, many fewer than some think, but much more importantly, it's going to transform our jobs. It's going to touch 80% of jobs and make them different as people pass off some tasks that they used to do manually onto intelligent machines. We know that only about half of HR pros are actually using predictive or prescriptive analytics today to actually take advantage of the workforce data we have. And we know that only about a little over a third of workers say that they are inclined or likely to write a positive review of their employer. So we have these four shocks. And what this really means for you, for anyone in a leadership position, is that this is a world of continuous change that will challenge both your IT leaders, your IT department, but also your employees. And when you have shocks, what you need is a shock absorber. And we think that there are shock absorbers that you can use here. They are philosophical and practical, but also theoretical approaches to how we think about technology. And Forrester calls this future fit, and it is a way of thinking about the technology stack that's actually quite simple. What we want to do is we want to invest in a technology stack that is adaptive to circumstance, that is resilient in the face of shocks, and that allows us to be creative along the way. So what do we mean by this? We mean that this continuous world of continuous change, I should say, and shocks requires you to be able to reconfigure quickly. And we saw this with the pandemic. Everybody went and worked from home, but there will be other kinds of adaptations that need to be made along the way. Resilient, to be able to deliver your fundamental vision and brand promise no matter what the circumstances. Resiliency comes in many forms, from business continuity, but also inclusive of our employee base and how they get their work done. And creative. We need to make sure that we have the best possible technologies that bring emotion and engagement to customer experiences. Our employees need to be able to be creative using the technology. So all of these things are going to act as a shock absorber if you do it well, but they're not just technological fixes. They interact with the human factors, real human beings, right? Customers, partners, and especially employees. What are the expectations and needs that human beings have at the same time that we're making investments in technology? When you bring these two together in the right way into this amoeba-like adaptive enterprise, you will achieve the resiliency, the shock absorption that you need to be successful. So we like to think of these things as working together. Now, many of the leaders out there today are also taking some key actions to try to become more responsive to business and market challenges of various sorts. And so that is to say, these key actions tend to be very digital. They involve things like adding new digital capabilities, developing an adaptive workforce, which again relies heavily on investments in digital, modernizing our business applications coming up at the top, and establishing the business and technology foundations necessary to be responsive to changes as soon as they take root. You can see some other things here, data capabilities and data science, that sort of thing. But effectively, what leaders are telling us is that they understand that digital is a route to dealing with the challenges that are forthcoming. And those could be, market challenges, new competition. It could be changes in customer demand, as well as our four shocks. But it involves modernizing our technology stack and our applications, and it involves investments in digital. We've also learned through COVID here, and this was some survey data we took this year from organizational decision makers, that almost a third of firms say they're changing or increasing the rate of change for their IT roadmap in 2021. So we know people pivoted last year. Organizations had to make certain investments in things like connectivity, in video conferencing, basically the tools to deal with the emergency. But they haven't stopped those innovations. At least a third of them have accelerated some of those, innovations on the IT roadmap. And this comports with many conversations that I have with lots of leaders who say, we understand that there will be new challenges and we want to future-proof ourselves. We want to be in a flexible architecture that will allow us to respond. So this new world that I've described, where we have lots of continuous change, where it really is the norm, necessitates that we keep up with that change. It necessitates that we think about how technology investment and human factors interact to make sure that we are constantly prepared for what is next. We also think that this concept of future fitness is very powerful, that when you use this lens of adaptive, resilient, and creative technology all coming together, that you are preparing yourselves to be the most responsive that you possibly can be. And I think this gives the beginning of our story around the up-to-date piece here. It's hard to do any of these things if we're not staying current. So when we think of this future fitness, it sort of implies cloud complementarity, that our technologies are at least linked closely to the cloud, that we can move at cloud speed as necessary, that we're updated, that we're both receiving the innovations and the features we need to make our employees, for example, more successful and productive, but that we're also getting sort of the critical fixes that may come along in areas like security. And it also says that by staying current and keeping everyone current, we're reducing fragmentation where different people in the organization are running different versions of software or, not able to intercommunicate with one another. That may also drive a lot of help desk requests. And altogether, when you're current, we're hoping that you can innovate more rapidly and more effectively. So that's the beginning, but there's more to this story. And part of that revolves around the grand change in work that we are seeing at this time, which is what we call the anywhere work revolution. And that's upending where and how we all get our work done. We believe that the world will be quite hybrid. We call it an office plus anywhere hybrid. And when we map out what that new employee journey looks like, it starts to also give us a sense of what some of those features that are up to date might look like. Up-to-date productivity software may help us in that employee journey. So Forrester's prediction is that 70% of organizations are going to expand anywhere work significantly as we return to offices. And this varies timeline-wise by country. Some countries are still deep in the pandemic, but let's say in a country like the United States, we see 60% of firms moving to a hybrid model. And that is to say, at least some portion of their workforce is working remotely a couple days a week. A small number of firms will go anywhere first, and of course, some will return to the traditional office along the way. We think that this matters because anywhere work is driving a variety of direct and indirect benefits for employees, for businesses. It's really a continuum here because both audiences have to benefit for this to make sense. But what we've done through dozens of interviews and many client conversations is to distill what some of those things look like. For an employee, you're looking at this from an increase of employee experience perspective. You need to increase the flexibility to allow people to live a good life while they're getting their work done. And in return, those employees will also improve their productivity and performance, which is really what most of us want to do in any event. So giving some measure of flexibility as we return to office is meant to be a pro-EX, pro-productivity move. We should be helping customers to be more successful. We should be increasing adaptiveness, employee retention, and recruiting. And on the business side, we think things like business continuity and resilience, which have risen up to the C-suite, as well as commercial real estate costs potentially going down over time, are possible benefits. So when you look at this world of office plus anywhere hybrid work, both employees and the business can both very deeply benefit from all of this. We know, for example, that home offices have been upgraded. Many of us have invested in the past year. One academic study said that, knowledge workers in the US spent $660 on their home offices and 13 hours reconfiguring space along the way. Another study from some other folks said that additional planned spending on home offices in 2021 will continue. That effectively we're seeing the home office as a permanent extension of how we get our work done. And that's not to say we're going to be remote all the time. Again, this is a hybrid work environment, but it is the idea that the home office is on some level an extension of how an employee gets work done for their primary employer. And this includes all sorts of upgrades from chairs and keyboards and computers to desks and even lighting, as many of you may also have invested in. But that's not the only thing that will change, right? Our physical offices are evolving as well. They're sometimes changing quite considerably. We're getting a lot of interest in hoteling solutions, which is a planned flex desk system that allows employees to choose a flexible variable desk when they go in the office the couple of days a week that they do, maybe define some neighborhoods. Maybe this is the area where marketing people work. This is the area where R&D people work. Maybe there's a mixed neighborhood for those times you are collaborating across those boundaries. But hoteling changes the nature of our office, and a lot of offices are investing in a lot more space for collaboration, for huddle spaces, for more conference rooms, for big open areas where people can get together, and more intimate areas where people can get together. So all of this says, you know, my home office matters, my sort of flex desk matters, my collaboration space matters. It means my work week will look different if I am an employee in this new world. My journey may look something like this, where the gray areas are time spent at home. The purple areas are video conferences, which I can hold at home or in the office. I might be watching kids at some point. I might do work in a cafe when it's safe to do so. There are a lot of different possibilities in addition to those office collaboration sessions. So let's just look at 5 moments that matter across this week and just talk about how up-to-date productivity software and sort of moving at cloud speed could be helpful to that employee. So maybe we're in our comfy chair, you know, we start off the week early at 7 a.m. or something like that. We know a lot of people want 2-in-1 devices that many of us are, you know, kind of using our BYO PCs and using them at home. What this sort of says, you know, is that you want to give people technology that will work on their, you know, their home PC, number one. Modern productivity software that will work on a next generation device that allows for touchscreen and great experiences, that's probably going to be important. And this might not be the only experience that this person has during the day. As we've seen, they're probably at some point going to have to get out of that comfy chair and go have a slightly more formal video conference. Now, they may be using their work PC, they may be, you know, bringing the one that they had, but effectively, they want to have some continuity of experience here. Now, we know that most remote employees say that they feel more connected to their teams and their projects when they're using video conferencing. And we know that the PC is the centerpiece of that. So what this person needs at this moment of the day now is a high performance video conferencing solution that is embedded in with lots of collaboration tools, making this productivity experience very cloud capable, very interactive, and connected to all the documents that they already have so that they can share and work with other people on it. So that's step 2 in the week. The next day, you know, this employee has decided to go to the office. And we know from our data that almost a third of workers say, you know, I actually can't wait to get back to the office when it's safe. I miss collaborating with people. Many of our clients are talking about huddle spaces, collaboration spaces, redesigns, as I mentioned. And so what you really need in this situation, though, is cloud-enabled document collaboration. Because guess what? For any meeting you have with 5 or more people, there's almost certainly going to be someone who is remote. So although you've come together to collaborate in the office, you still have 2 colleagues or 2 partners or 2 customers who are on the other end of that line. So even when we are in person doing office work, we need that cloud speed. We need that cloud collaboration and enablement. So up-to-date software is going to give us the best experience for being able to do that. Moment 4. Hoteling, as I mentioned, is going to reshape how we think about our desks. This has been a very hot topic of late, and an employee needs to bring essentially everything that they need to be successful to their desk for their day, including that PC. In order to be fully functional as an employee, I need to have all assets, all apps available, full video conferencing on my PC in a self-contained experience. And I need to be sure that all of that is working really well and that it is enabling me to do everything with people who may not be local to me. And the same really is true when I go back to the cafe. We know that lots of folks pre-COVID were working from all sorts of spaces. We know that to be fully functional, I needed to have all of that connectivity. And in the new world, we're going to also see things like 5G make that even more powerful for a lot of workers. So that's just a little bit of an employee journey map, if you will, to understand the week. And what I get out of this, and what I hope that you get out of this, is that up-to-date technology in productivity and operating system is really needed to keep up with that journey, right? In order to have the best experience in all of those different contexts, I need to be able to be effective in my home office, and it's an extension of what I've been doing, in the office itself. This hybrid world will make it so that I'm really splitting my time, that mobility will start to return. So whether that means I'm context switching to a cafe or indeed eventually, hopefully some business travel can resume, I need to be, again, cloud connected, moving at cloud speed. And I think that employees need full productivity wherever they happen to be. A cloud connected, easily updating, innovative with good features, and very performative software is crucial to wherever I happen to work. Now, all of this experience doesn't happen without the IT department, right? The outstanding or great employee experience requires outstanding or great IT management. And you have the ability to do this with the more up-to-date platforms. IT gains some advantages when they are able to use updated tools and move at cloud speed to keep things current. Now, we know that IT people, more than ever before, are now gold on employee experience. Only 13% that we survey say that they don't have some kind of goal. Everyone in red here says that it's a team goal and or an individual goal to take care of and look after employee experience. So this is a revolution that has evolved over about a decade and a half, but now IT takes the needs of employees very seriously. So in order for you to reach that goal and to have great EX, you need to be thinking about strategies for architecting them. We know that EX has also increased since COVID-19 by 40% actually of organizations say it's increased, while many say it has stayed the same. And yet employees, only about half of them believe that their company is offering technology to ensure EX working from home. That's taken during the pandemic itself, right? So even though we've all been working from home, not every employee is thrilled with their technology. And in fact, companies themselves, only about 1 in 5 would rate their EX excellent for their employees. Technology is only one piece of this, but it is a very important one that you have some control over. So the argument becomes then that up-to-date cloud-enabled technology is a key to managing those great employee experiences, right? It means being able to update the productivity solution wherever and whenever employees need it to be. It means that the pace of innovation is faster, that as there are new features that become available, that IT can give them very quickly to the workforce and get them into motion, where you have this world of more continuous release, right? Rather than once a year or something like that. And also, I think our employees, as part of that EX, are expecting, as we've traced over the years, they expect that the technology that the IT department provides them will be as good as or rival or be better than what they have at home. And so as employees have become in their personal lives more accustomed to having up-to-date, fast-moving cloud-enabled technology, you need to have that. And I think the IT decision makers also want to have the infrastructure to take daily but painless updates and to scale across thousands of users. It needs to be achievable without some kind of a vast IT workforce, right? It needs to be something that can be done by the staff that you have. So all of those things together add to our argument that moving to up-to-date software actually has a lot of business value to it. So many of you are hopefully now reflecting, pardon me, on, okay, so I get this, the world is changing, we're going to have challenges. There's a good argument to be made, but I have trouble selling this internally. This is probably the number one comment that I get back when I talk to people about this. So what can you do to sell the business case for this up-to-date technology? And I think some of the building blocks are in the conversation that I've been having with you up to this point, right? To tell a story that combines employee experience, productivity, future fitness, and anywhere work, all of these things together, but it's how you go about telling that story that matters. Many of us tend to think of a business case as a before and after exercise, where we go and squirrel ourselves away in a room for a week. We type up a business case and it's done. And then this is it. We throw it out into the world. The problem is that's really not the most effective way to do this. We did some research over the last few years to look at this issue. And what we found is that the business case is more like a life cycle. I talked to an IT leader who said to their chagrin, I kind of got into IT because I'm kind of an introvert and I like doing things, technical things. I didn't know I would have to become a diplomat or an evangelist. But all of us have to discover that part of ourselves, because we can start by establishing a business case where we lay out some of the benefits that we expect to accrue from something like an upgrade to the latest technology. But then we need to elevate that and turn that into a conversation with business leaders, with HR leaders, with others who have an interest in how employee experience evolves. And we co-create that vision with them. We don't just sort of go in a room and cook it up ourselves. We iterate and we socialize and we listen. We may even then start to collect data, either external data, or perhaps we do a bit of a pilot. All of this needs to happen until we reestablish something that meets the vision and language that will actually convince everyone that this is the right way to go. So if you consider business cases as a life cycle, as an active diplomacy, as an active co-creation, you are far more likely to be able to get that business case approved by others in your organization. So here, where we think about moving to the latest version of cloud-connected client software and productivity, we can think about it this way. If you do nothing, you're going to increase the risk profile for the company when that next systemic risk event happens. Is there going to be fragmentation? Is there going to be a challenge getting people to connect well again? You're also going to lose employees, whether you know it or not, to bad employee experience. Believe it or not, people do attrit over poor technology. It just is a form of friction that frustrates them during their day. So you're proposing here an up-to-date, cloud-enabled, with quick updates that will match the new hybrid workplace, where people are more distributed, where people do need to be connected, and they do need to be productive. The employees will benefit from a constant stream of innovation as work evolves. They can take the latest features and solve new problems, and IT decision makers also can manage this easily to drive employee experience. In fact, you may see some savings in cost because managing it is easier. And finally, what are some alternatives that people might consider? Well, point-in-time updates can never really offer the level of innovation or ease of management. So if you're sort of mired in the old world, you know that you're going to be sacrificing benefits vis-a-vis this business case. And browser-only apps don't offer the same depth of performance for enterprise work that, let's say, client programs can when you're using them on a desktop or laptop. All right, so we can consider alternatives. There's always alternatives. Some of them are do nothing. Some of them are competitive alternatives. But the articulation here is that the best case is probably going to be up-to-date versions of the best-in-class productivity software we can get. So let me just conclude with some thoughts about what this means. I think there's a very good case to be made that having an up-to-date, cloud-enabled, but client-based productivity software suite for your employees is going to create lots of value. And this will not be, nothing is true for every organization, but for many of the companies we talk to, this would be the case. And we think it's consistent with this approach of future fitness, where it's part of a technology infrastructure and stack and architecture that allows us to be more adaptive, resilient, that allows employees to be more creative using that productivity software, where anywhere work is changing how and where we work. The back and forths associated with hybrid work at scale will necessitate a great employee experience. It will necessitate lots of great management techniques on the part of ITDMs, and altogether, employee experience will have a return on investment in terms of productivity, engagement, creativity, and happiness of your employees. So that's a story that I was happy to share. I'm really glad that you listened, but now I'm going to turn it back to Amesh so that he can talk to you a bit as well.
Great, thank you. That was fantastic. I do want to, show folks kind of the overall benefits of how we're going to help IT be really, productive and have the critical things that they need in order to ensure that they can keep these devices up to date with the latest versions, including those set of features, security updates, and also quality fixes that we all want to ensure that we have the best performant productivity set of tools available for your end users. And so from an IT benefit standpoint, we're able to shrink down that overall life cycle for you by going onto a more monthly cadence. And what I mean by that is today we do have, and we do deliver updates on a monthly basis, but depending on the channel that you pick for your M365 apps, you can have just security updates, or you can have security features and quality fixes at a much faster pace. But we know that just being able to acquire those updates isn't as easy. So what we've done is we've built a new channel called the monthly enterprise channel that gives you the option to have that predictable Patch Tuesday update, which is the second Tuesday of every month. We're going to deliver that, which is a cumulative of even a much faster channel, but a lot more predictable and reliable and stable. And a couple of things I want to point out here. One, by being able to acquire these updates from the monthly enterprise channel versus a slower channel like the semi-annual, you're able to get things like the quality fixes at a much faster pace, up to 5 months faster in this case, because you're not waiting for the point in time solution for those updates to land or those fixes to land within that 6 months. It could take you 6 to 8 months at that point, which JP mentioned earlier. And then, of course, giving you faster access to features, which we already touched upon. But the key thing that I really want to leave you with is about performance. That you actually will see a higher performance around things like file open, access to files, around, for each and every application. And the reason for this is mainly because when we build a service, we are tuning it for the applications that are also being delivered along the side of it. But as the applications move to a slower channel, they become stale, but the service continues to evolve and match the faster channels. And that's why you're seeing a significant amount of performance that are coming through the current as well as the monthly enterprise channel. Now, we know it's, like I said, not the easiest thing to do. We've heard a significant amount of feedback from organizations that you want to have better insights, better transparency into what your organization looks like. How how up to date are you? Are there any gaps within your inventory of Office apps? And being able to see that, as well as from a security standpoint. Are you receiving the latest patch updates, or do you have any vulnerabilities exposed within your environment? And then finally, giving you the right set of cloud tools to ensure that you can have a lot of automation, but with the controls necessary for you to be able to ensure that it meets your organization's needs. And finally, being able to look at health metrics across your entire set of assets in order to ensure that things are continuing to work well, not just during a deployment, but also between deployments, because we know that there's a significant amount of environmental changes that could happen that can actually degrade the overall things like performance or even just loading of Office apps. We've seen several organizations do deployments of additional set of add-ins that actually can break the way the Office apps perform. So those are things that we've heard from organizations, but the good news is that we've actually delivered a lot of great innovation and technology, cloud-based control that allows you to do this. And so we encourage you to check out all of them. We have our inventory where you can now see within the M365 Apps Admin Center a complete list of your Office apps and devices, getting information and insights like you've never seen before, and it's done in a much faster manner than using your traditional tool sets. In this case, we're optimizing for sub 15-minute updates. So if you're not receiving updates, if you're not receiving updates to your devices, you can be aware of that much, much faster than you've ever done before. Same thing with security currency reports. We're now focusing highly on how well are your devices being patched on an ongoing basis. So we help you measure that, report that out, so you can be a lot more confident in the fact that if you are being secured or not. Then we also introduce a concept called servicing profiles. This gives you the option to automate your monthly updates, be able to look at how it's being distributed, but giving you the control that you've asked for to pause your actual updates when an event has occurred and you just want to hold off. We also give you things like automatic pauses where we have in the form of exclusion dates. Let's say you want to be able to ensure no updates are being delivered during a particular time frame. Maybe it's tax season or a holiday season where your end users are continuously heads down focusing on productivity, and we don't want to disturb them with another update. You can certainly pause it from a start to end date, as well as other capabilities that we're going to be introducing shortly, such as being able to restore the version in the event that there was an issue with a particular update. So all those things are coming down the line. We're going to continuously add and innovate on top of these. And then finally, I want you to take a look at the apps health, where you can really get key insights on how well are your applications doing? Are you seeing a significant number of crashes? Is it the typical set of crashes that you're seeing across the industry? Are there any advisors or advisories that we are sending to you that you should be aware about in the event that it's a problem across the board? So all of this is now nicely being packaged in the Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center, which you can go to today and be able to view there. Now, a couple of things I want to show you, some of the benefits that we have been seeing across the board here using some of our internal studies that we've done. With using things like servicing profile, we're able to see about 27% more of your Office apps being updated in a timely manner. And we measured this from the beginning of one Patch Tuesday to the next Patch Tuesday. What we've seen with folks who are using traditional methodologies to actually patch these updates, they are losing a lot of devices because for some reason the agent wasn't able to deliver the update. They're not enforcing any particular retries. And once there is a basic failure, that agent would just quit. And so you would leave a significant amount of sediment of where devices are just not being updated in a timely manner. And So in a lot of cases, they're just not being updated at all, and they can become months and months behind, up to 6 to 12 months behind on a particular update, making them extremely vulnerable and also causing issues with overall usability of the software. Let's think about this. If a particular user has the latest version where they're using collaboration, they're using some latest technologies that we're delivering through the M365 apps, and the second user who's trying to collaborate with that first user hasn't received that update in a while, there's clearly going to be conflicts. There's going to be errors, and it's going to frustrate the user for actually being able to be as productive as needed. And of course, we now have help desk phone calls increase. So by ensuring that they're both on the same version, the latest version, will eliminate a lot of those issues that you're seeing there. The other thing around that is the amount of install errors. As I mentioned earlier, when you're using, third-party agents, they're not really optimized for delivering these M365 app updates, where we've ensured that we are tweaking our services to continue to do retries, because there are situations where the device was just offline, or their disk space was maybe a little, too high there, and they didn't have enough disk space to actually deploy, but they deleted some files. All of a sudden, disk space is now available. We have the smarts built into the service to go ahead and look at that and be able to retry. So reducing your overall amount of errors. And what we've seen in our study is less than 1% of errors were shown in that overall deployment. And lastly, we've actually been able to save significant amount of IT time from troubleshooting, because we're able to now expose what the errors are when it comes to deployments. We're able to show them in a nice way exactly what the errors are, what devices are being affected by this. So you don't have to wait for somebody to call into help desk and even have it stuck in that help desk queue for the longest time before it actually gets to you. So we've been able to show you a quick set of insights as to how well or not are things going during that deployment. So great set of benefits there. Now, I hope you go out and check all the resources that we do have available, from the inventory, servicing profiles, and app health. They're all available today. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to continue to innovate on all of these. And so definitely, continue to provide us that feedback on how well things are going or what areas could we improve. But definitely, we encourage you to check out all the capabilities. So that being said, I want to thank you for joining this session. I want to thank our guest speaker, JP, for giving us some great insights on why it's really, really important for us to ensure that your users are having the best experience possible by staying up to date with the latest versions of all the software.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.